Welcome, welcome. Hi, ladies. Hi, ladies. Welcome, welcome. Well, I have to first say thanks to the people behind the scenes because they have been working many hours. This is not easy. We're trying to do a lot of different components. It's tough stuff, and we know you know that, and we know you appreciate it, and we appreciate that. So we're going to try this again. We think we have the bugs worked out, but we will find out, okay? But I can tell you that if we don't have the bugs worked out, we'll continue working on it until we do. All right, it's just a matter of time. How's that? Well, welcome, welcome. It's 2015. We have so many new customers. Our PBS show has done very well. Our YouTube online has done very well. The whole goal is to help you understand and enjoy your sewing more and more every time you sit down to the machine. I know I do. I venture into more difficult projects, more complex fabrics, and I know I enjoy my sewing experience every time a little more and more. But I would say in the year 2015, be patient with the process because practice does make a difference. So with 2015, our format is going to be the first few minutes. We say around 15 minutes. Sometimes it goes a little longer, sometimes it's a little less, just depending on how many women we have and how many questions we have. But we're still going to commit that to this same time frame. So the first 15 minutes we'll do questions answers. You all will have login and you'll be able to ask questions. We believe the whole reason for the switch to YouTube is it's a higher quality, it's a better, easier format for both parties to follow, not necessarily for us, but for you all to log in and get responded to. It's an easier process. So that's the reason for the change. But again, we appreciate you being here on Tuesday, where this is a Tuesday, not a Monday night, and it feels a little different to us, but it's all good. The first thing I want to say to Silhouette Pattern customers is a thank you for what we did in December. And what we did in December was a jacket sew along, and it was completely where I cut out, made the whole jacket start to finish. This was the jacket that you saw. The only thing I hadn't done was sew on the clasp. That's been finished. The jacket is complete. I absolutely love it. And really what I love most is every time I look at it, it reminds me of everyone's generosity and donations to children who are faultless in their situation in life. They are completely subjective to who they are born to, and we were able to raise $1,750 to give to children who would have otherwise not had anything for Christmas. And so we are very appreciative of all of those who contributed and cannot say thank you enough. We will somehow make it an annual project. I'm not sure what that contains just yet, but we really appreciate your joining in along with us. And from the emails that I got, there was a lot learned, and certainly there was on both parts. So thank you. All right, questions. Do we have questions? Do you think we're a little bit lag, or do you think that everybody, everybody's just happy we're working? You guys, I'm telling you, Brett, I have to say, is my son, but he is just tireless at getting this correct. We were up, I don't know how late it was last night we worked on this, and he was back at it again this morning. And he doesn't like a lot of acknowledgement, but Brett, thank you. Okay. And on the other hand, there's others who are behind the scenes watching technically to make sure everything's going correct, figuring out what's wrong to make it better and better. So I can say we have a tremendous staff, and they really care about helping you and helping me. So it's a very selfless project. Okay, so we have a question. On a pair of jeans that fit well when standing, as I walk, the pants always pull down, waist and crotch. Is there anything I can do to fix this? Yes and no. If the pants are pulling down, then that's gravity. Gravity, the garment will always go down. It's a natural for it to go up, but when it goes down, it says the circumference is too large. So you can tighten up the circumference. Now there's a point of that's not the case. When, in other words, if you walk forward, you need more circumference as you walk. So as your knees move forward, as your body moves forward, if there's not enough circumference, the jean will pull down. So I know this doesn't help that much, but it's either too much circumference or too little circumference. So one of those two is going to be the case. With a denim, a lot of times with a denim it can actually be the fault of the fabric, where because it's denim and denim is so subject to stretching, then it could be that just as you're wearing them they're stretching, and so therefore that's the reason they're moving down. But they're either too small or too short, too tight or too big. You'll have to look at them and kind of decide what's the right answer for that. And my dog is running through the bottom here. He loves to be in the webcast room with us. I'm not sure what it is, but he just loves to be in this room with us. So anyway, he's running around here below. Hopefully we don't run into him. All right. Okay, but you're there. At least you're there. There's actually people there, huh? Terrific. So great, ladies. It's really great to, like I say, to, you know, and can I compare this to sewing without being too too whatever? In life, you just have to keep trying. And there's nothing wrong with, we called it a technical failure, is what we called it, because it was hard to call it anything else. Technically, it was a failure. But you know what? You guys saw my picture of that little baby crying. Babies have no other way to express themselves, but we do. Gosh darn it, we can pick up and try again. Okay, so I made my husband George's shirt. I need to pick up the shoulder. What do I do because of the yoke? Well, the yoke is actually the shoulder. So you can do one of a couple things. If you, and I'm just going to use this pattern as kind of an example. I'm going to say, let's just say that if you change the angle of the shoulder, just add it down below. Just add the exact amount you took out right to wherever the yoke comes in. I can't remember, is the yoke part of the back? I mean, I know it's part of the back, but I can't remember. The yoke goes into the shoulder, I believe. So just wherever it is, I mean, you can just move the whole armhole down. You don't really have to changes the yoke, it changes the angle of the shoulder. So let's say you took off a half an inch. Just move the whole armhole down a half an inch and don't make any other changes to the yoke at all. Actually, that's the better answer. Don't change the yoke. Just if you change the angle of the shoulder, leave the yoke like it is, but then to keep the armhole the same, just drop this whole armhole down. Okay? Yep, that makes sense? Perfect. I inherited 5 yards of stunning black velvet. What shall I be aware of as I sew it? Special treatment handling. Yeah, there really is, especially if you don't know. There's several types of velvets, okay? The old velvet was a cotton velvet. The newer velvets were poly velvets, and poly velvets are much easier to work with. So what I'm going to recommend first is that you burn it. Burn a little segment of it to find out, is it poly or cotton? Cotton is much more difficult to work with as far as pressing and all of those things. Polyester velvet can be pressed easily, actually. And so velvet number one obviously has a nap, but that's a kind of a given. You got to cut everything the same direction. But then as far as seaming it, if it is a cotton velvet, which is much more difficult to work with, I would recommend that you just pick a pattern that doesn't have a lot of seams. A cape, for instance, would be it'd be beautiful to make a velvet cape. Pick something that's a simple pattern because the fabric itself is so beautiful and it will carry it off. But the other thing I would recommend is that just steam a little sample and see what the steam does. Again, in cotton velvet, your steam will actually crush the fibers. In poly velvet, it'll revive itself. So it's real important to know which one it is before you start the process. Okay? All right, we're going to get started. We'll go till 1 o'clock. And again, through the process, if you have questions, I'm going to really encourage them. We still have a small delay. Is that accurate? There is still a small delay, so even if we're kind of past, I'll still go in and introduce that. The goal of these is to really, as I sat and worked and getting ready for this one, the webcasts take me maybe 4 days, maybe 5 days to get ready. And that's not literally every minute. It's in my head. It's trying to come up with ideas. It's trying to really articulate what's going to help you the most. 1825 is called Zoanne's Cape. The whole reason I created the pattern initially was because it's a very stunning collar, and yet the jacket itself is so simple. No linings, no facings, and yet the fit is all there. It's a French dart, it's a two-piece sleeve. It really is just a great little project. So my goal is to help you sew jackets. Jackets are the most expensive garment we wear, and yet they are, I think, they're not the most difficult to fit by any means. There's really only a couple issues to fit with them. And on this particular one, I don't see that you'll have a lot of issues with fit at all. There's a French dart, so you don't have to worry about the dart being too high or too low. With a French dart, if it's too high, then you just stop stitching it earlier. And if it's too low, you just continue and stitch it up. You don't literally have to cut the pattern and move the dart up and down anywhere. If we just put out the whole new DVD on plain potatoes with patterns, and the whole reason we did that is if the armhole or the shoulder seam is too wide, I'm just going to use these two patterns on themselves. I can take and put the point of shoulder where I want it. I can narrow the shoulder here and then just swing it out to the side seam so that they can align. And the reason we did that plain potato DVD is because it's just so hard to see the accuracy on webcast, and on PBS I can't say silhouette patterns. We can't deal with silhouette patterns. We have to remain educational as a non-company of any kind. So anyway, that's the purpose for this. You could get a close-up as to how that comparison is made. That then has just a collar. So the pattern only has 5 pieces. It's the jacket front, or coat, whatever you want to call it, the back. It has a 2-piece sleeve, and that sleeve is the same as on any of the jacket sleeves, 1900, 1950, they're all the same. It has no shoulder pad, it's because it's not lined. It's a very simple little jacket, and then it has a collar. So those 5 pieces, I would really encourage you to get up, make a mock, a sample, whatever. Email me questions you have, Peggy@silhouettepatterns.com, and you'll find it really enjoyable. I'm going to kind of take you through my journey, when I make it, what I'm kind of using it for, and then I've got some really exciting changes, I think exciting changes for you. So I'm going to start with when I have a tendency to make it short. The jacket naturally hits you right about the hip line area. When I decide I want it shorter, I'll usually go in 4 inches and make it shorter. Now, what that means to any of you is if I measure from shoulder to knee and divide by half, that would be your 1-to-1. My 1-to-1 turns out to be 4 inches shorter, but if you're only 5'2", that's not going to be the case. So measure shoulder to knee, divide by half, and then figure out how many inches come off the jacket. The jacket in its base nature is double-breasted at the neckline and then comes to be a single-breasted at the waist. If this were longer, it would actually slightly come apart as it goes to the hip line. So it's double-breasted here, and you notice the front seam is angular. The neckline itself, this is the only reason I would make up a mock, because the front and back of the jacket are really going to fit well. The darting is built into the back. Again, it really fits nicely. However, sometimes on the collar, now this on the mannequin sticks out a little bit, but it doesn't in real life. But if it does, you can take little darts right here at the edge of the collar and taper to nothing at the seam line. So you can shape it around your neck exactly how you want it to be. You don't actually have to make a muslin for that. Just leave yourself enough fabric that if you cut the real one and you didn't like it, you could go back and make your little darts and then tuck it to the edge and then cut out a new collar. You could use that as your pattern to cut to a new collar. Generally, when I'm sewing the collar on, I don't ever do right sides together. I do flat against flat. It leaves a really nice flat seam here. Sometimes I do 1 layer, sometimes I do 2 layers. It really depends on what I'm doing and what I'm creating. In this particular case, what you notice is the collar is the focal point, and that's what I love about the jacket in general. It's just a great look. It's a very simple look, but it's just a great look. So I especially use a contrasting collar to do this. This has stacked buttons. There's several buttons that are stacked here, and because I didn't want to have to make buttonholes in this particular one, I just put a snap underneath the buttons so that could have a snap closure. So those buttons are really decorative in this particular case. So I'm going to show you another case where, again, I've used a shorter jacket. I actually made 3 of the shorter jackets. Why? Because I really like them. This is a really firm wool flannel. It's really beautiful. I just want you to notice again that that is flat. It's just literally I overlap them, the seam allowance amount, and then stitch it in place. I've got layered buttons again. This particular time I went ahead and made buttonholes. Those buttonholes should be horizontal, so it gives it a little bit of movement on the body. Vertical buttonholes are for blouses, and the main layer where you don't want movement, horizontal buttons are usually in jackets, pant waistbands, things of that nature where you want a little bit of movement. So for me, in this case, I made horizontal buttonholes. Yeah, flat to flat just means instead of right sides together, I'm overlapping the seam allowances, and so you get a much flatter edge here as it goes around. If you were to do right sides together, then you'd actually create a little bit more bulk around it. It's not that it's wrong, I just don't do it. I generally overlap it and then stitch it in place. Okay, so then also, this is a great jacket if you've just got a little bit of fabric where you don't really have enough left, or it makes a beautiful collar. I can do the collar in one color and then tie it all together with either your stitching. I did just a little rolled edge down the front here, and then of course stacking the buttons I was able to bring in all the different colors that I wanted to, and it really makes a nice presentation as far as a jacket goes. I love it. It's comfortable, it's easy, it can be toned down in fabrics to where it's not dressy at all, or I can make it out of velvet and make it really dressy. So it gives me a lot of leeway. So this particular jacket now, I still did the 4, the short ones. Now in these beginnings, keep in mind there's no pattern changes. The only thing I did in these, other than shortening the jacket, but the only thing I did was manipulate layouts on the fabric. So this is a fabric we have, and it's the Winter White Navy window pane panels. It's a wool. It's got a beautiful slub to it, and even more importantly than my beautiful slub, it's got a great selvage. So when I see fabric that I really like and I love all the components, I just start to think about ways I could incorporate everything together. Because leather is so popular, I decided a contrasting collar in a leather. There's only one layer. I took the leather, and once I cut it out, the piece, I just did a 4-thread serge all the way around the finish. It just kind of gives the leather a finished edge, even though it's only one layer. I just like the difference of it having a little bit of finish. So again, anytime I do a jacket like this, I look at the fabric and think, how can I best utilize the fabric? Whoops, sorry. That's the dog. But anyway, we're going to blame everything on the dog today. A lot of times I've had women who will look at a fabric like this. If we're at a fabric store together or I'm in a class, they'll look at a fabric like this and they'll think, oh, that's just way too big of a plaid. I don't want to deal with that. So whenever you have a plaid like this, put it on the bias. This is, if you were to measure it, it's an even plaid this way and this way. So I can come through at a bias and cut exactly through the middle of those squares beautifully. So what I did when I did this jacket is I did just that. I took the front, which is straight. It's straight, but it's at an angle, but it's still straight. And because it's only a very short piece, the fact that it's off grain or anything like that, you'd never be able to tell. It actually won't affect the garment. So the front is straight. I took the straight, and you could see, and the front and the back, and I put it on a bias. And doing that, you get a beautiful little hang in the back here. It really has a different little hang in the back than it does in the front, simply because it's all one piece. But you also notice that you get a lot of movement through the jacket when you look at it. It's not like you stay here, you stay vertical, but you also move throughout. So I just love the combination of that angled fabric and then of course the small jacket piece. When you go to cut the sleeve straight of grain. And then if you noticed, there's pieces here where I matched so that everything looks matched. It just looks completely purposeful. I mean, it was completely purposeful, but it's very easy to take that. All I'm saying to you is when you go to do bias, make sure it's actually bias, and the squares will help you if you take the center front and run it right through the middle of those squares. They'll line up perfectly, and it's really easy to do. All right, so then I took the trim. I'm sorry, this is the selvage, and I made trim. I cut it about 1 inch wide and went back and serged it. I doubled the layers because 1 layer of trim to me wasn't enough, so I just actually cut up all my selvages before I started. I figured this was what I was going to do. I serged the edge and then I layered them like that. So first that was just the front of the jacket. I then decided that I wanted a contrasting collar. I wanted, you know, and when you think about your options, you really couldn't do matching fabric because it would be so wonky. You know, your bias of your jacket wouldn't match the bias of the collar. If you tried to do straight, it would look terrible. You really only have one option, is to bring in a solid collar of some kind, and then it's a matter of what color. I thought about doing red, I thought about doing, you know, something bright contrasting, and then I really decided that the leather was where I wanted to go, and it was a really nice subtle pull to the neckline. So I decided to do that. I then just cut a strip of the leather and put it right down the front facing. So if this is my front, I cut my strip to be the width of the distance between, and just literally top stitched it right on top. So I just love it. The one button just gave a great focal point. I did not do a buttonhole on leather. You don't really need to. What I did is I stitched the back 2 layers, so I just stitched a rectangle to keep that leather in place. And then I came to the front and just stitched a very small rectangle that I cut the buttonhole in the leather. So that is all you need in a leather buttonhole. I wouldn't recommend you trying to stitch a buttonhole on because it gets it's too much heavy thread for as thin as the collar is, and it kind of gets hung up inside. So just a real easy buttonhole like that will really work well in leather. Okay. Love this jacket. Now my goal when I made this jacket was to wear it with jeans. I wanted something casual but yet kind of nice, and I wanted to be able to couple it with jeans. So that was the other reason I decided to go with a leather collar and the blue so that it would tie in with a pair of denims really well. We'll put that there. Yes, we can go back to any one you guys want to at any time. Oh, the snaps are in this one. Let me just grab this one. What's attaching the collar to the coat, it's actually stitched on. So this is actually stitched in place. Now what I did is a zigzag just with a zigzag stitch on my machine, but I did the color that matched the collar. Underneath here you sew on the buttons first. You have to sew on the buttons first when you stack them, because if you sew on the snap first, you can't sew the buttons on because you can't get the needle and thread through the snaps. Stacking buttons just literally means stacking them on top of each other. Here, this one's a better example of stacking buttons. You know, whenever you're looking for buttons, I mean, we did this years ago. I don't know, I still think it's beautiful, but we had these bigger buttons, but sometimes maybe the bigger buttons didn't exactly match, or you wanted a little more, or they were solid and you wanted a little color to them. So there's actually 3 buttons here, and it's fun because I bought these buttons way before I ever got the fabric, and I think that's what this jacket is all about. It's a great way to showcase those one large buttons. You know, what are you going to do with these big old buttons? A lot of times we really don't have any use for them, so I think artistically I start with the buttons, and then it's easy to get fabric to match. Even if I did the collar in a gray, it would still be all about the buttons. So that would be my recommendation, is go to your button stash and go through and find the buttons that you just had for a while, you love them, but you really haven't found anything to put them on, and then start there, and then you'll be able to kind of go from there. So stacking just means sewing them all together is all it means. But you could really gives you an opportunity. If you notice, the second button here is not the same. So it gives you really an opportunity to really make an artistic statement from something so simple. Buttons, I just love them. I just really enjoy them, especially as we go to ETA. Like in Dallas, there's going to be a button lady. She comes up from San Antonio. And I mean, I just love sitting there going through her buttons. It just is more fun, and it's a real treat to have enough time to go through the buttons. Sure, you can wear any of them open. Absolutely. In fact, I won't show you on this one, but I'll show you on the other ones the difference between wearing them open or not wearing them open. On proportions, yeah, on proportions, the length of this one, if you decide to, is you'll want to make it a 1-to-1. So that means measuring from your shoulder to your knee, divide by half. So I'm 40 inches from my shoulder to my knee, and this is 20 inches from this point to this point. And that's what the 1-to-1 is. For instance, would you make a short jacket that ended at your waist? You could, but that's 1-to-1.5. That's like a jean jacket is shorter. So you just have to, it's just all based on the look you want. You want to be a little bit careful because this has a French dart. When I shorten this jacket, the French dart actually goes to the hem. It doesn't go to the side seam anymore because I've taken off some of that length. So if you get it too short, this particular style, I don't think you'd want to go that short with a French dart. Vertical buttonholes, that's a pattern rule. Vertical buttonholes are placed on garments that are closest to your body. That means you don't want any movement. So for instance, blouse is a good example. Vertical buttonholes are placed on a blouse so that you get, you don't get a gap and you can't see underneath the buttonhole. Horizontal buttonholes are used when you do want a little bit of movement, such as a jacket, pants, skirt, waistband, those type of things. So there are rules of vertical versus horizontal. Okay? Question is, do you have to serge the leather before attaching it to the collar? I did. You don't have to, but I did. I serged all the way around it. Can you use any type of leather, just something that is very thin? I think that when you use leather, let me use, these are my scraps right here. I always use, when I'm sewing, if you look at the top, the 4-way tank top, look at it on the PBS site. Or no, I guess it's on our Silhouette Pattern site too, the 4-way tank top. One of the tank tops was made up in leather. It was made up in all the leather fronts. And so it's called apparel leather is what I always use. So is it very thin? It's pretty thin. It's not in risk of tearing by any means. I only reinforced the buttonhole really just because I felt like it looked a little bit better than it being raw, and I felt like it would be less likely, it would lay a little bit better. The weight of that extra layer would make it weigh a little bit better. So now there's a little button on the inside, and you could wear the jacket open if you wanted. You obviously want to have something on underneath. But you could wear it open like that. This has a little button underneath. I've worn it open lots of times and I really like it. You just want to make sure if you are wearing it open that you've got a pretty inside. And I'll show you an example of wearing it open here in just a minute. A better example. How do you measure your bust down to your knee? Don't no, okay. So good. Here, let me show you. How's that? When I'm measuring myself, it's a linear measurement. It isn't a depth measurement. Now what that means is you don't measure over your bust. Now we've got a lot of this just for reference sake. We've got it in the book called My Very Best Dress Me. So when I'm measuring myself, I simply measure from the edge of my shoulder straight, not over the bust. It's a linear measurement. It's just as I would view the body, down to my knee. And again, I'm measuring 40 inches. So then when I go to measure the pattern, I'm going to measure it again from that same point, and I'm going to go down. Now this is 26 inches, so that's why I took off the 4 inches. I actually made the jacket 22. It had enough for a hem. So this jacket, again, when you go to measure it linear, measure it from where you would view from here to the hem, and this one measures 21 finished by the time I put the hem and everything else. So this jacket on me will give me a 1-to-1 look. So don't measure from the base of the neck over the bust. It's measured from the shoulder edge and gone straight down. Okay, hopefully that helps. Good question. Are we okay? Okay, so if you should have a horizontal buttonhole in a jacket, why is your button vertical in the leather? That's a great question. Thank you. Great question. Because in this particular case at the neck, I did not want movement. The under buttonhole is horizontal, but in this particular case, I didn't. If this collar opens, it changes the way it lays on my neck. So I wanted it, once I buttoned it, to be still. I still have all this open here, and it'll still give me the movement, and it will still respond. So that's a perfect example how there are exceptions to where you're going to find vertical and horizontal. The reason I wanted it vertical here, I'm sorry, is because I did not want movement on this neckline, because I wanted to preserve it like it was. Very good. Thanks for asking, so we can clear it up. Are we okay? This is fun. This is really fun. We have a live viewer from France because we're daytime. Oh, hi France. You guys, are you all okay after all that's gone on there? I hope that we're with you. We're absolutely with you, and the sharpened pencils have been amazing. I saw one sign that was regarding to freedom of speech. It had one pencil at the top. The middle picture had a broken pencil, and the bottom picture, both of those breaks had been sharpened, and now we had two pencils. And I thought, yes, it's really, we're with you in spirit all the way from here to there. Thanks for being here. Okay, so now I want to take you into some examples where I've done pattern changes, a little more extensive than just shortening, and I think that for me this is what it's all about. It's challenging you guys to, you know, push and learn more and more about patterns without teaching you pattern making per se, but to really change up a pattern. We do know that once we have a pattern and once we sew with it, we get more and more comfortable with it. So the fact that we can have a pattern and really enjoy it and see lots of options for it, that's really my goal. Alright, so this one, I love this. This particular pattern fabric it's called a black gray knit lace. It's on the website, but like black gray knit lace. Absolutely stunning to work with, as I really find these fabrics and really find them, they're so beautiful, and I know that you don't get the advantage of feeling them, but I know so many, we sell so many fabrics. I really get to this point that you're trusting me that these really are beautiful fabrics, and they are really beautiful fabrics. Okay, so let me explain to you a little bit about what I've done here. Now, even though this hangs straight right here, this girl doesn't have as much hip as I have, and so this actually pulls out a little bit, and this actually hangs at an angle. So the body itself, I didn't do anything to. It's actually cut the same length as the original jacket, so it's down right about my hip line area, and this would be called, I think this is a 2-to-1 proportion. Okay, so if I can take those same numbers, divide by 3, give 2 to the jacket, and that will give you a 2-to-1. Okay, so let me go over the pattern changes I did with this. Notice now our collar is completely different. Even if it were up, it's completely different. And actually what I did on the whole entire jacket, I'm going to take the collar and show you, is I took the collar, and if you measure it, it measures about 3 inches wide, and I took and doubled the width. So I literally just drew it twice as wide all the way from here to here. The whole entire collar is done twice as wide, and then I cut 2 of them. So I wanted, because it was a lighter weight fabric and I wanted to give it some body, I actually cut 2 layers. There's 2 layers there. Okay, and if you wear it closed like this, I'm going to show it to you a couple ways. It just really has a beautiful effect. I love it. I put a little silver piping, whatever you want to call it. I decided that I'm a silver person, so I wanted to accent the gray and the black with silver, so I did that both with my little buttons and then with my piping both. I did both. Okay, so this would be especially great to be worn, and I'm going to try to kind of undo this for you. In this particular lace, I did do buttonholes, but I did very small buttonholes because my buttons in this particular case are these long little, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. This is a case where something like this could be worn open. Again, you all know, as long as you have something under it. But it's really beautiful worn open. So all I did was double the collar, and because you're doubling it now, it won't stay the width of it, it'll roll over itself. It's called a full roll collar, and that's what I did with that. Now also, considering that it was a knit, I didn't want to do a two-piece sleeve in knit. It wasn't necessary. It's kind of contradictory from the pattern to do a two-piece sleeve. So I did take my favorite t-shirt, which for me is my sweater set, pattern number 195, and I took the, I'm going to take, this is the front to the front, and if you go to compare armholes, I'm going to put the knit armhole in the front so you can see that. Put them both at the shoulder seam, and you can see my knit armhole is much smaller. So I want my knit armhole because I'm going to take and cut my knit sleeve. And I'm going to lay the knit armhole onto 1825, and when I do that, you can see that the knit armhole is much higher than the other one. This one's the 1825, this one's the knit armhole, and so when I cut it out, all I did was brought the jacket up until I hit the knit armhole, and then followed the knit armhole up to the shoulder seam. That was it, and then I used my knit sleeve. So very simple to do. Make sure you do it in the front and the back. You've got to make sure you don't make this mistake, because once you cut an armhole too low, you don't have a way to fix it, and it will make a difference. If that armhole is knit and if it's too big, it just it's just not a great look. Okay, so again, center back is on the fold. Very simple to do. Great little jacket. Put a little colorful little tank underneath, a green, yellow, red, whatever your favorite color is, and it's just awesome to wear it open. Okay, we got a little bit more fun involved. A lot more fun, actually. We're just getting to the best part. Alright, so this one here I did. I absolutely love this. Every December, my girlfriend, who is also a sewer, Jeannie, and many of you know her because you've been on the fabric trip. She always comes on the fabric trip. But anyway, we always plan a day, maybe even two, to just go shopping. New York has just so many great clothes. There's more clothes in New York than, sometimes I sit and look at them and think, how do all these clothes sell? How do they all find a home? But they do. That's not my problem. But we see so many beautiful things. So we always go to Saks, because Saks just has such fresh, beautiful things, and it's just fun to look at all the beautiful things. So Saks had a line, and you guys have copied it many times. There are no copyrights in the ready-to-wear industry, called Ellie Tahari. Ellie Tahari is the line. So this was on a mannequin, and I actually looked it up. You can still find it. It's on Saks. If you go to Ellie Tahari, they've got two looks. This is one look, closed, and it's actually a vest, but it's got sleeves. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually make it a little jacket. And then this is worn open. So that's why I said I'm going to show you it worn open. So first let's talk about the pattern changes that I did. The first pattern change I did is I took the collar and I added 6 inches to the side. So normally if the collar, I'm going to undo this just a little bit here. Normally if the collar would stop somewhere like this, I literally just extended it out another 6 inches. Now this is all styling. How much you decide to add is totally up to you. But here's the goal. When I saw this particular outfit was on a mannequin at Saks, and I looked at it and I said to Jeannie, I said, that's 1825. That's just exactly the pattern. It just simply has a cowl neck has kind of been added when you decide to wear it closed like this. So I thought the process all the way through. Like I said, I had a month to think on this, so I really thought about, okay, how was I going to do this? So add 6 inches. You're also going to add 6 inches to the front. Now, but when I added 6 inches to this particular front, I went straight down. So instead of coming back for the angle, it no longer has the angle because I decided to go straight down with it. I actually wanted it to wrap all the way. somehow as I was playing with another little cape I had, I found that if it angled like that, it almost looked like it didn't fit. So my choice, again, design choice, was to come all the way across 6 inches, come 6 inches out, and then go straight down. So actually by the time you got to the bottom, it's a little bit more than 6 inches, but you don't have to worry about that. You just want to go straight down. Okay, so then you've got your closures. Now anytime you do this particular jacket, you've got to hold up this closure over here. You've got two closures you've got to have because it's a double-breasted, and anytime you have double-breasted, you've got to have support on the inside as well as support on the outside. So that's why in the leather one I had a little button that buttoned to the inside. I mean, the pattern has all that, and then you need a button that buttons to the outside. So in this particular case, I did the belt just for show. This particular fabric, then when I decided I wanted to merge the two, first off, it was fabric that was very similar to the one I saw at Saks, and so it was an easy choice for me to go to this fabric. In fact, I've been chomping at the bit to get this fabric. I was just in love with this fabric. But I also wanted to utilize the fabric, and in this particular case, there is fringe. This is the selvage of this fabric. It's amazing fabric. And yet, it's a knit, but it's so stable. I mean, just a gorgeous fabric. So I decided I wanted the bottom of the sleeves to have the fringe, so I didn't have any hemming to do because that's the selvage, and it stretches around, so it's perfect. A lot of times the selvage, it stretches the other way. You can't do it, but this one's perfect. And then also you can't see it, but the whole entire hem is the fringe. So I actually wore this a couple days ago. I mean, I just love it. I just love this little top. So then what I did is I used we've got these little fireman clasps now. They're online. And I used the fireman clasp because I was very conscious that I wanted it to be worn open. I was not conscious that the fabric wasn't two-sided because, again, the one I saw at Saks, the back side was bad. So it kind of gave me permission to have an ugly back side, I guess. But I used the fireman hooks because there's only one little hook up here, and by using the fireman clasp, they're very lightweight, and I could have both fireman clasps on the end of the collar so that when it was worn open, you can see those fireman clasps and they actually look the same. The only difference at the shoulders is one's on the outside and one's on the inside. Now I could, if I wanted to, put another one over here and then I could button it either way and put one on the inside if you wanted to. I didn't. I just decided it would always go this way and always go this way. But you can see as it's worn open, it's just a great top. The collar, it comes down around the waist, you know, jewelry, beads, necklaces, whatever you want to do. The only other pattern change I made was because it was a knit, again, I put the knit sleeve on the armhole. So same thing, use your favorite t-shirt pattern, superimpose the armhole on top of the original pattern, don't forget, and then use your sleeve as use your knit sleeve. Okay, easy enough? Okay. Okay, is this the black white slub? Yeah, I forgot to tell you the fabric. Sorry, black white slub. Thank you. Did you use your knit sleeve again? I did. Yeah. I think the question probably came before I just answered that. That's okay. Yes, I did use the knit sleeve again. If ever I'm using a fabric and I'm using that knit, if it's knit, I'm going to come in with my knit sleeve because the jacket itself was made for a woven and it has a two-piece sleeve. And if you do a two-piece sleeve in knit, first off, it's unnecessary. It's just more work. The knit, the only reason you do a two-piece sleeve is because you want to bend. And the bend is unnecessary because I have a knit. I don't need that bend. So it's just much more work when it's not necessary, and this is much faster to sew. We have tie interfacing on this pattern, and next Monday, the YouTube video that we'll post is the tie interfacing sample. I'm going to show you how to do that. The YouTube video is the best way to do that because you'll get a close-up. We'll be able to get a close-up of sewing the tie interfacing in. So we'll post that next Monday so that you all get a close-up view of that. So the jacket itself has tie interfacing in it because it's a set-in sleeve. It's a jacket two-piece sleeve. But when I go to the knit sleeve, I don't have to do the tie interfacing. I don't have to do any of that, and it works beautifully. Okay? To make this, you really don't want to ask me, probably an hour. It was so fast, you guys. Again, you don't have any hems on the sleeve or the bottom. I cut it out. I did double the collar, just an FYI. And I did, when I sewed the collar on, there are 2 layers of the collar, so I finished the edge here. Lots of different ways you could do this, but you got to keep in mind it's curved, and so you can't put it on the selvage unless you want to sew it back on. But then what I did is I serged the edges, both sides, and then I just stuck the sweater itself in between and top stitched all the way around. So the whole thing, I mean, it was done very quickly. I think I sewed it from like midnight to 1 in the morning because I've been so excited to get it done, and there's just been so many things going on. I really wanted to get it done, so bam, I got it done. Of course, then I couldn't help but wear it the next day. I'm just in love with this little top. You'll need 2 yards. 2 yards will be enough for it. The sleeve is the selvage, and I know you can't see, but the hem is the selvage also. The whole entire hem. So you just put the front and the back on the selvage and the sleeve. So what that means is you have to fold the fabric to get the back on a center back. The back is still on a fold. So to get the back on a center back, you have to fold the top layer to get it, and then fold the bottom layer to get the front, and then you do the sleeve. And 2 yards will do it. Okay, easy enough. Okay, she's going to go back. Alright, so then my last one here is because I got an email from a lady who was terribly upset. And you know, I always answer emails and I always try to calm people down, but they still, whoops, you still get me thinking about, okay, what did I do wrong and what should I fix? And she went on and on about how, I don't mean on and on, that wasn't respectful. She just said that she felt like this was named Zoanne's cape, Zoanne's cape, and it's named after Zoe, so I gotta say hello to Zoanne. She lives outside of Atlanta. But anyway, she said it's not a cape. A cape doesn't have sleeves. It's a valid argument if you Google definition of cape. But in the contemporary world of fashion, many designers have added sleeves to capes. It's given them a broader function, so there are many capes out there that have sleeves. So when I think of a cape, I just think of an unlined piece of fabric that usually has just a couple closures. It's a simplified jacket, kind of is what it is. But I thought, no, I'm going to take her to task, and I should offer her an ability to make a cape. So voila, we made a cape. And this is what I did. I'm going to tell you what is style and what is fit, so that you can differentiate and make your own, because I absolutely love this. I just absolutely love it. So I needed a new cape anyway, so thank you. Alright, so let me just explain to you what I did. And first off, the first thing I did is I used this is a beautiful, help me here. The fabric is the black. It's on the site. It's a newer fabric. We've just put it up. It'll only take you a yard to do this. Wool flannel. It's a black wool flannel. It's about a yard wide, and it's not a yard long. Well, it might be a yard long, but that's what I'm saying. It will only take you a yard of fabric. Okay? So simply what I did here is I took the front of the pattern and I extended this out 7 inches. So literally I just kept it that same exact angle, 7 inches. I knew how wide I wanted it to be because I measured a yard on me, and I didn't want it past my elbow. I didn't want it too big. I just wanted it to look like a cape, because you can see what I'm going to wear underneath it is a long sleeve shirt of some kind. So whenever I assume I'm going to wear a long sleeve underneath, I don't want a lot of sleeve on that second layer. It drives me nuts. So you can see how much of this is personality, which is why I love sewing, because you can just cater this to be anything you want. The hard part comes in, and sometimes we say, gosh, I don't know what I want, and I would agree with that. We have to do a little bit of homework. But I had a cape that I measured, and I measured the width, and I measured the width at the bottom, and it's actually wider at the bottom than it was as it went down, so it was a yard across here, and it came down to about 32 or 30 inches at the bottom. Now that's each side, so that still gives you plenty of room. So then I compared that against the pattern. So as I laid the pattern down here, you can see that this goes on about 7 inches additional. And then all I did was I took the front, once I was 7 inches out here, and I just mirrored the shape of the pattern. So I maybe came out 3 or 4 inches all the way down. I extended the French dart, I extended those lines out, and then I also lengthened it 3 inches. Just because I wanted the cape, I wanted to be sure I could wear leggings under it. I wanted to be long enough that I could wear my leggings. So 7 inches out, mirror it, you'll come out about 3 or 4 inches, 3 inches at the bottom, and tie that in all together. That's all I did. Then the back, I did the exact same thing because I wanted the shoulder angle to match. So again, keep the shoulder angle the same, come out 7 inches, and then literally just mirror the shaping of this. It'll give it a little bit of shape and not make it too big and bulky, but it works perfect. So again, there was 3 or 4 inches along the side, and then I added 3 inches to the length. Okay, so again, looking at the fabric, what I did, now in the front, I did bring this straight down, because what I did is I actually put the front on the selvage. This is for the selvage of the fabric. So that's what I'm saying. Always notice your selvages, especially on these beautiful winter, these wools. They're just gorgeous fabrics, and I don't know, they have just really pretty selvages. I don't think I've ever bought so many fabrics that have so many pretty selvages, and you have kind of a built-in trim. When you look at them, notice them, and figure out how you can incorporate them in. Alright, so then if we look at the side here, all I did was I put it on, I serged that whole edge. That's serged. The bottom is serged. There's no hem at all. The flannel has a beautiful weight. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't even need to be serged. You could leave it plain. It's that beautiful of a fabric. There's my French dart, and then I just came in and I put a button. I put 2 decorative buttons right on the side, and I made them a little bit glitzy because I just liked them. But you could do them however you want. You could make them, and mine are not actually functioning buttonholes. I actually have a cape similar to this, and I was kind of duplicating it and measuring it, and there's a button there, and it's functional, but I would never unbutton it. I don't even want it to come unbuttoned. So I actually sewed the button through both layers. You could probably put a button on the back just to make it a little more decorative. I didn't. I only put one button. Okay, then it came along to where I just wanted a pop in the collar, so that's when I decided to add my zippers. And my zippers, the reason I did it is because you can wear it open and make it like a little notch lapel if you wanted to. I could operate, if I was wearing my cape and I got a little bit warm, I could just open it and wear it like so. So it just gives you so many cute options. I just love this. My collar actually comes off. So what I did on this is I put the separating zipper I used 2 of them. I started it right at center back. And then whatever was left over, you can see I just wrapped it around and stitched it in place. I actually cut off a little bit. If you're shortening a separating zipper, don't shorten it from here, shorten it from the top. So this actually comes off. And if I want to, I can just wear it without. And then you can't even see the zipper. So I could have done it a couple ways. I could have actually hidden the teeth underneath another layer of fabric. There's lots of great ways you could have done it. I don't think I'll really ever wear it without the collar. I love the collar. I love the zipper effect. I love that I can zip it up or zip it down or kind of do whatever I want with it. And then the only other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to do some closures. I wanted some kind of attention down the front with my cape, because it's a cape. Remember, you've only got 3 pieces. You've got the front, you've got the back, and you've got the collar. That's it. There's no sleeves. The sleeve is just open, and like I said, all you do is put a button here. So, and then the whole bottom of the cape is open as well. So with the buttons, I could not really find what I wanted, so I just made these. These are just leather trim that I have, and I always have leather piping. In fact, it's sitting here. This is my sewing room. But anyway, I always have just like yards of just straight leather. And you can get it at Leather Impact or any place that sells it. But it's just thin, and I can cut it and do and make pretty much anything I want. This is the little leather scraps I had, so you can see where I cut out my little, I'm sure, I don't even know what these are called. But, I just bought the button. And then I laced the leather through, stitched that in place, top stitched it all in place, and then did the same thing on the other side. So I made a button on one side and a buttonhole on the other side. I did 3 just because I like to do 3. There was no rocket science to that. And I love my cape. So this one, it goes down straight. It doesn't go at an angle. With a cape, I really wanted it to go down straight. This end in here, the fabric is firm enough. I don't actually need anything in there to hold it up, so I only had the closures on the one side. Alright, so hopefully we'll redeem ourselves that it really can be a cape. I just have to eliminate a piece. How's that? I wouldn't have to make it wider, but I wanted the cape to have a little bit more width to it. So this has been a really fun project for me. I've got lots of new great things that I really like. I think that our contemporary clothes, our patterns are really timeless. It's just kind of how we interpret them or what we do with them that really makes a big difference. It really makes a big difference. All right, so that's all I did. How's that? We're a little bit past 1 o'clock. Let me just say, business-wise, a couple things, if I could. Our Fit to Stitch 300 series we are shipping this week. We will have all of them shipped. There's a lot that we're shipping. So we'll have all of them shipped by Saturday of this week. So if you did a pre-order on the 300, we will get it shipped out this week to you. PBS has to close caption them, so they take a little bit of time. We filmed in November and it's taken them all this time to kind of get it ready. But anyway, we just got it. We just got them all done and we'll have them all shipped out and ready to go. Our POM club, there's been a few questions on it. Mainly I want to let you know that it's 1 pattern per month. It doesn't matter if you live in France or Australia. The shipping, the cost is all the same. We keep the cost to everybody. We want you to get those patterns. We want you to get those monthly reminders that you need to get back to your sewing room and have some fun for yourself. Okay, that's what those little packages say to you, is take a little time for you and do something for yourself. I know as women and men you do plenty for others. Okay, so the POM club membership ends today. Today's the last day to do that for the year. It's Irvine Workshop, just an FYI, we moved it. It's in Laguna Hills, which is just 15 minutes south, not a big deal. The workshop itself, the 3-day workshop, is sold out. I don't have any more room in that. The 1 day, which is on Sunday, you can make up a muslin using a silhouette pattern. You can bring it to the workshop. There's a limit of 30 ladies. We've got a few spaces left, and that is a week from Sunday, a week from this Sunday. And we have those all over the country. We have them in West Palm, we have them in San Jose, we have them several throughout the country. Oh, our Toys for Tots jacket? Yay! Look at you guys. This was a group effort. We all made this. We all did it. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Some of you got the fabric. If you got the fabric, you really understand how beautiful this fabric is. Absolutely stunning. I've worn it. I can't, I'll wear it to Puyallup so that so many people who go to Puyallup, they see it. But even though if I don't have it on, I'll bring it anywhere I go. All right? It's absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful boucle. It's just gorgeous. It's just really pretty. I love it. All right. Thanks for being here so much. We will see you in 2 weeks, sort of. I think we're okay. We'll correct what we need to, but mostly thank you all for being here. We love helping you. We're happy to help. If you have any questions, just let us know. Peggy at silhouettepatterns.com. Thanks. Happy sewing, ladies. Bye.